District Commissioners to order on this 12th day of October 2023. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes. Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Present.
Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Schivoni.
Present.
All right. So let's begin. We do these meetings a few times a year, so it's one of the other roles we play, besides being town board members, is we are commissioners for the water district. It's the only area within the town where we provide this type of utility in this way. We're involved also in Flanders Riverside, but we have our own water district, and we provide the water in Hampton Bays. Let me start off by congratulating our new Assistant Water District Superintendent, Keith Tuthill. Keith Tuthill Jr.
Yep, junior, yep. Got that ahead of me.
Yeah, I know. Your dad serves on, is it zoning board?
Yeah, zoning
Zoning
board, yep.
All right, and we have James Cappers, who is our Water District Superintendent, John Collins, who is here with H2M as a consulting engineer, and Chris Weber, also from H2M. So with that, I know that you guys have prepared a number of topics for our discussion. So I think, James, I'd like to turn it over to you and have you lead the presentation.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about what we do is pump and bill. So right now we're on target to surpass last year's pumpage. It seems like it's the trend, the 1 to 2% every year increase, just because of the popularity of irrigation systems and the ever-growing community of Hampton Bays, building houses and construction. You know, once that starts to grow, then the pumpage starts to grow. So right now we're roughly just on the numbers. We're about 1.9 in billed water consumption. So we're above about 500,000 from last year at this point. Main reason is obviously our pumpage is up, but also that we're starting to change out our water meters, so becoming more efficient and getting some of those older meters changed out and registering better. So we're on target to surpass last year's numbers. We had a very good summer. Summer was fairly quiet. I think we only had one major complaint, and that was the Hampton Maid. Come to find out, they had a huge leak on the backside of their property. We brought in every employee of the water district, and John Collins came to the property to try to figure this out, because that side should have been doing much better with the new drill, and they were having low water volume problems, and we found out they had a huge leak on the backside of one of their units.
On their property?
On their property, yeah.
It's on their end.
They were greatly appreciative
Yeah,
of how fast you got to the property and
we
addressed it.
spent a lot of time there, and I called somebody to come and fix the leak. They were there within 5 minutes to come and repair the leak for them. We put a new water meter in, we helped them out with their bill, and they were greatly appreciated. So that was really the only issue we had during the summer, with people calling about low water pressure.
So now, once that leak was fixed,
Yeah, they
now
only had like
experiencing better pressure than
27 pounds at the highest point of their elevation. Now, then after that leak was fixed, they were at 55. So
55 pounds per
they had no problems there.
And before they,
Sprinkler line. It was an old 1.5-inch sprinkler line that didn't say, no, poly,
oh,
80 psi poly line that they use to run throughout the complex to tee into for their little units that they rent out for the summer.
is that a fire suppression system or
No,
water?
just the water to supply their units that they have, that they rent out, the little condos that they rent out on the backside of the Hampton Maid. They have, I think, 27
Was it
units.
on an irrigation line?
That's what, it's an older line, so back then, that's all they used really was irrigation line to run water supply.
Oh, so it was a water supply?
It was a water supply used but it was utilizing a irrigation type pipe. Thinner walled, not really meant for water main, as now the water main pipe that they use is thicker walled and better durability, so.
Right. So what was, so now they're at 50, what'd you say, 56?
55 at
55
the
PSI.
top of there.
What were they before we put the canal crossing in?
Not sure. It wasn't really changing the pressure. It was just the volume of water that was going to be available for them. So the pressure really is going to remain the same. It did increase it very slightly, but the volume of water now available on that side is what increased. And pressure is going to be pressure, whether it's, you know,
And-
100 gallons a minute at 40 PSI or 20 gallons a minute at 40
Did we
PSI.
in general, I know you're saying we didn't get any really pressure complaints
Excuse me.
over there. Did we get any compliments? Anybody reporting a difference after we put it?
Well, the Hampton Maid didn't have any problems throughout the summer, only for this one little issue. And they were probably our top complainer.
Did
over the
customers notice the difference after we opened up that second feed?
Well, being that they didn't call to complain, I believe they,
I guess that's as good as we're gonna get.
yeah, we're not gonna, you know, there was a couple of
Say,
people
"Oh,
that we
thanks,
knew.
my water pressure improved?
Yeah, so, you know, again, the popularity of sprinklers is still gonna be our biggest thorn in the back. You know, there's really not much we can do about it, you know, until we, or the town eventually maybe implements a fine or something for that, maybe in future, but, you know, we just try to hit them with water conservation as much as we can, being the tiered billing rate too. So once they enter that higher tier, they go, why? And, well, your sprinklers are on twice a day. Okay, maybe I'll cut them back. So hopefully that will persuade them to cut back on the sprinklers. But yeah, that's pretty much on the pumpage end. I mean, we survived the summer and everything, wells ran well, the tanks operated the way they should have been, the iron treatment plants up and running the way it should be. And our GAC, again, ran without detection of PFAS and PFOA. And yeah, summer was good.
All right, so, I mean, then you have a bunch of topics you wanna cover. I was gonna ask, you just mentioned the GAC filters, just kind of curious as to, you said it ran all summer without any spillage over of, the perfluorinated compounds. Is it filling faster? I mean, what's, you know, we've had to change that media.
Yeah, we're
filtration media.
pretty saturated, because if you see on the paper that I sent over for you with the levels, in our September result, you could see that at the GAC in May, we had non-detective. So just to go back a little bit, the 4 compounds that are listed after PFOS and PFOA are gonna be the ones that the EPA are looking to regulate at that 4 parts. So that's why they're included on this graph. You can see we were non-detect for the first 2, PFOS, PFOA, the PFNA and the HFPO-DA non-detect. We had that very minimal breakthrough of the last 2, but those are the acids, which once the GAC, the carbon gets saturated with the PFOA and PFOS, the acids will start to break through. Very slight detection, obviously well below the 4, but that's how we start to tell that the carbon's starting to become saturated, needs to be either changed out or recharged, because once they start to break through, then the PFOS and PFOA will then start to break through as well.
These are all parts per trillion, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
That's why in the budget for next year, we're looking to reactivate the carbon and reinstall our reactivated carbon. Better financially to, instead of putting brand new fresh carbon, and to get brand new fresh carbon is a longer lead time. And with that longer lead time, we didn't want to have to wait and maybe possibly lose the GAC in the summer months and not being able to operate it. So the reactivation process is a little bit quicker.
You also don't have a waste product.
And we
Does
don't have
that
a
get
waste product.
you 100%, or is it
What's that?
Yes.
abilities? So, when they heat the heck out of it?
Superheated, yeah.
They
And
superheat
then they
it?
replace around 20% of it. When it breaks down a little bit more as they superheat it. So the fines that are too small to be reused will get rid of, and then they replace.
Do they do it at the facility, or they take it
They do it
somewhere?
at a facility, yeah.
So they
Not
bring
at the
in some
water, yeah,
equipment?
yeah, not the water district.
Not at the water district. They take it away to
They
their
take the carbon to a
yes.
facility, they superheat it,
Yeah.
It's in,
volatilize all these compounds.
it's in Kentucky, I think.
They ship it to Kentucky?
They
and-
come,
and
they
then-
get it, and they drive it to Kentucky,
And then drive it back.
they reactivate.
Probably just like a truckload of material, right?
Eight.
Two.
Yeah, it's
The size of
80,000
the
pounds.
vessels, yeah, it's 2 truckloads, but yeah.
Is there
That's
a chain
inside
of
the
custody part of that? I mean, we're sending something to Kentucky. How do we know we're getting the same thing back?
Yeah, no, so it's segregated reactivated. So whatever is taken out of there gets reactivated only with that carbon gets marked when it's
Okay.
clean and then
So
brought
there's
back.
a, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Would it matter if we got somebody else's clean carbon? I don't know.
It would,
Well-
depending where they're coming from. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want the carbon from, maybe an industrial place that's doing
Absolutely.
heavy
Right.
metal
Or a
removals.
wastewater
Yeah.
treatment plant.
There's a shelf life on it, that how many times it can be reactivated, right?
Yeah.
It loses its
Yes.
Yeah.
efficacy after a while.
Well, with
Each time you
each one,
reactivate
Yeah,
it,
it's
it goes down.
5 times?
I think you do about 5 times, then you're basically almost fully replaced anyway from the original because you're replacing 20%
Mhm.
each time. So,
Oh, so they augment
yeah.
the product, okay.
Well, that's the thing, next year we have to remember, I know I brought this up, the EPA is looking to deem PFOA and PFOS hazardous. So moving forward, if we ever have to exchange the carbon for fresh carbon, that carbon is then gonna be deemed hazardous, and then there's gonna be different
Rates.
rates and also different handling of this, might be different companies have to come in and remove it, and then a new company is gonna have to put it in, so.
So it could add significantly to the cost,
Yeah,
which is then gonna get me back to that conversation of whether this site is the best site, knowing that you have an inflow of PFAS that is, I think, 80 parts per trillion, 82 parts per trillion. I don't know if that's gonna go up or down. 'cause
that's our highest, that's our peak, since it's September, that's our peak pumpage, so that's our highest number we'll see all year. And then at this point, it's gonna
Right,
start
But-
to go
right.
down.
But it's
But yeah, like
going up
since
and
our last
fairly-
meeting, John's been working, he was gonna talk a little
So
bit about,
we'll-
about a site evaluation and working on the numbers a little bit too.
Right, because,
See if it's gonna
it's
benefit.
been said that we probably will need carbon filtration at all sites.
Eventually, most
But
likely.
the period, how often that carbon gets changed is gonna determine on the influence side,
Yeah,
how much PFAS is coming in.
Plant One
And you know, in this site,
definitely
and
have to change.
I've
more.
also asked for a characterization of the plume from the firehouse, I've never gotten that. So, is it going to get worse, is it going to get better, is it on the upside, is it on the downside?
Well, the last time we
How
had
many
that
years is
Zoom
it-
meeting with PW Grosser and the fire district, they had that map. And basically, the center of that plume is like right underneath our main office, and that was in thousands. So then the plume is not moving very fast at all, so it's basically sitting.
So
right
we're
where we
living
are.
with it for another 20, 30 years.
It's a forever chemical, who knows?
I know, but forever in the water table, but eventually that
It moves past you.
plume
Yeah.
moves past.
Yeah, and we can just keep pulling a little bit bits and
And you
pieces to
should
our
see
well.
it in a, whether that concentration is increasing or decreasing is a fair, is an indicator as to where you are in that plume. If it's constantly going up and then it starts to start coming down, you get a sense that the bulk of it is moving past you and you're on the downward trend. But I don't know, based on these,
We did,
one data set doesn't tell me anything.
I think when we were talking with the DEC and the fire department, didn't we ask for their fate and transport models?
We did,
And they didn't give it to us.
no, DEC
Yeah,
hasn't.
That's, the fate and
complied with
transport
that.
model is what I'm.
Yeah, and
Right.
we asked, and they didn't.
There's been a level of a certain amount of frustration dealing with both.
I think we have the right to that,
I think so too.
particularly if the firehouse, or the DEC is asking us to continue the operation of these wells.
I asked the DEC rep at the Hampton Bay Civic if they plan on putting down test wells.
They have them. Those are the test wells.
Our wells are the
Yeah,
test wells, right?
Yeah,
Others to determine the size, location, and speed of the plume. But
Don't they have,
Answer
don't they
Well,
have some on
some
the,
watershed
on the
studies
fire
are
department
supposed
property?
to-
The fire department has some, there's one right outside our property, and then I think there's one or two on Suffolk Avenue, just behind our property.
But doesn't the sub-watershed study note some of that movement
Okay, good.
that the
It
county?
should,
It
yeah.
should, and we're just, they're
Waiting.
not giving us access to the data.
yeah, I don't know if it's been finalized, so I don't know if it's even foilable, because if it's in draft form, it's not foilable.
In some places it is, in some places it isn't, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Any idea why it's September versus May, at field one, we have such higher PFAS numbers?
From May to September?
Yeah, from, so September, you got, well, 1 is 82.6, and in May it's 8.
Because we basically just start the wells in May.
Yeah, which, the more you run the pump through the year, the more your cone of radius of influence is, so you're bringing in more
Okay.
contaminant, so to speak.
And then in terms of other well sites, we only have the one GAC, but at field,
Field 3 is our next concern, that obviously we're
field
putting in.
3, because you have that 8,
Yeah,
Yes.
almost 9 parts per trillion. But not in May.
there's really not much in May.
And that field's a year-round field?
Not at the moment because of the PFOA, PFOS. We shut it down pretty much now.
Shut it down, okay, so,
It has the ability to run all winter.
I mean, it's still pretty low, it's still below the 10 parts per trillion standard.
But once next year comes and the 4 comes into
4
play.
it's gonna be.
And right now, we're utilizing blending to remain below that 10, God forbid if 3.2 would ever approach that. And you can see on our blended side is, we're low, we're in the 3, but if we approach that 4, once the EPA sets that standard, we could have the possibility of losing that
Is it
well.
from, how many, well, we have 3 wells there?
Yeah.
Could we not run 3.2? 3.2 is the one with the problem?
Mhm. Summertime, it's almost impossible not to run that well. Basically, it is impossible.
So we're we're increasing concentration with more you pull out in that water, so some hydrodynamic thing going on.
Yeah, there's something else in that area that's,
Do you have a sense of where the PFAS is coming from in that location?
well, being the water table moves north, from the north,
Somewhere in the Pine
southeast.
Barrens,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so whether it be.
Is
like
that field, it's field 3, is that
Off
Cirrus
Bellows Pond.
Bellows?
Bellows Pond Road, yeah.
So, we've looked
It's
at
supposed
it,
to be like the best water, well, 4 is, field 4 is probably the deepest Pine Barrens, right?
maybe a fire on the highway that ran into a recharge basin. I don't know if they use foam for forest fires.
But that might be
Not
one
in
that
area.
passes quick versus the one related to the firehouse where there may have been ongoing
Could be illegal
training and
dumping,
testing
yeah.
and storage.
well,
It's
it
not just
depends
from
on where it
firefighters,
starts,
though, either.
because the travel times are still the same, so it doesn't, you're still gonna have to deal with the travel times. So
Mhm.
at that rate, you're at least, what,
Sean?
you're in the 4 to 5 miles per
3.
year, something like that?
By Cirrus Bellows.
All of them pretty much have some sort of detection now. 'Cause they're testing at lower limits, so a lot of the lower limits that weren't coming up on previous testings are now showing. But now there's 37 other compounds they're testing for, so eventually I believe there'll be more than just 6 that they're gonna regulate. There'll probably be 18, 20 come down the road.
All right, so back to the presentation, so, what's the next topic you wanted to discuss?
Just our updates of what our projects are.
Capital projects?
So we have Rampasture Road water main, which is in design right now, and we would expect to bid it this winter and construct it in the spring online before the summertime, so the people on that peninsula will see that immediate effect.
You're putting in a new main there?
A new main, yes, sir.
And the old main is gonna be abandoned, or?
It's gonna be abandoned, yep. There's the SCADA improvements, which we're working on now, again, hope to bid that this winter and go on to, into effect, next year.
That's this computer system?
Computer system, yeah,
So everywhere there's electronic monitors that relay information to the main computer?
Yeah, it's the monitors, but it's also the hardware, the firmware, so it's gonna be a little bit more, secure. It's gonna have better updated firewalls, I should say.
And that's viewable, not just at the plant, but you can look at it on your iPhone or whatever it is. So
Certain
if you
people.
wanna know the level of water in the tank at field 1, you can look at that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can show you right now, but the new one, there could be multiple users, like Keith can have it on his phone, and our plant operator can have it on his phone, and then there's an on-call iPad that somebody takes home for after hours, so if they get a call, they can quickly look at it.
And it gives you tank levels, pressures, So what pH,
well flow, pH, disinfection.
chlorine, no, chlorine,
Yeah, disinfection.
okay.
Can I ask you a question on, you're gonna replace the mains, and you're just gonna abandon the old mains? What's the material? Is that still, that's iron?
That's iron.
Yeah, that's all cast.
It's all, okay.
Old
And
cast.
why abandon, and why not remove? Just
Price.
cost?
Price.
Okay.
And plus they're getting water through a pipe that's this small and it should be
Yeah,
this
but,
big.
yeah, what you're asking,
Well,
why leave it in the ground?
Why
not
leave it in
rip
the
out?
ground, he says.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
The cost to excavate the extra restoration and the fill to bring in outweighs the cost of the scrap.
Okay.
But,
I mean, you're not using the old pathway, you're creating a new main in a
Yes,
different location.
right next to it,
for
yep.
a lot of other reasons. Okay, thanks.
Is there any downside to leaving it in the ground?
then once it breaks, then we're gonna have to fix it. You know, shut it
Well,
The
down.
old one,
No,
the old one.
Yeah,
the only downside
pretty
is,
common.
comes in is now when somebody goes to do a mark out there, they pick up two water mains. You know,
Right.
when you dig them up, you'll know which one's the new one. The ductile iron just will look different than the old cast iron, so they'll know, so, but,
well, the
other
good
than-
thing is that the houses are getting all tied into the new main. They're gonna
Yeah.
be completely removed
So
off the
just-
old one.
The only disadvantage to leaving the old one in is you're just leaving it in the ground, so it's there, so 15 years from now, somebody digs it up and, oh, what is this pipe? It's an old one.
But what's the reason again why you use the ductile iron versus like a, you know, rigid PVC type of piping?
It's a DR18 Blue Brute, it's a good product, we always use the ductile iron, based on strength. It's a little bit more resilient when it comes to if somebody was digging around it, or,
Is it the more subject to like frost heave or whatever, like, you know, cracking?
yeah, I mean, we're 4 feet down, so wouldn't really too concerned with that. So
Like
it's
in terms
more.
of water main breaks and things like that, it's.
The ductile is, you don't see breaks on ductile iron,
Okay.
so,
4 feet?
4 feet down, cover, yeah.
Now, is that what
Not
most
56 feet.
districts use? They don't use that
The bottom
black
of it.
plastic?
On Long Island,
4 feet
it's, no,
Well,
no,
that's a water.
the black plastic is the
Yeah,
HDPE.
residential.
We use that when we cross the canal and the Shinnecock, because ductile iron really isn't appropriate in that spot. If you're open cutting with trenching and putting in water main, the options really are ductile iron or something called it's a C900 PVC.
And so, what's the reason for not going with the PVC? Is there a particular reason? Is it cost, or is it
The cost,
do you believe that the iron is better?
iron's better as far as the strength comes along, it's also detectable. There's nothing wrong with PVC, it's just always been an industry standard. Probably cheaper PVC,
It's plastic.
yeah, yeah,
But it might bring the cost down some.
it could,
Yeah,
yeah.
until you can't find it and you dig something up and you break it.
I mean, there's ways around that, I shouldn't say that's, yeah, but, the ductile's really just a stronger, more resilient product. And then water quality wise, you know, if you have a dead end in the winters, water main sitting in the PVC, you worry about something that might leach out of the PVC where nothing's really gonna leach out of the
Right, but you also have to look at lifespan, right?
lifespan
If the
for
PVC's gonna be
PVC.
there for 100 years and the iron's gonna be there for 30.
Well, the iron
okay.
will be there for 120, the PVC will be in there for 1200, yeah. It's, the
Sort of
PVC
forever, yeah.
It's a forever, yeah.
And in
What
terms
size?
of reactivity with the water, I guess the interior's coated
Cement,
with cement,
yeah.
and it's non-reactive, because
Yeah, when you-
cement can be basic.
Yeah, when you put it online, you know, while the cement does, I guess you would say almost curing, they'll have a little elevated pHs on the end that'll go away.
Okay.
But other than that, it's just a little, the calcium in the cement will drive that pH up.
Well,
Right.
PVC has leachings, right, over time.
It
as
does.
well, so.
But, I mean, it's a product that's used all over the country, it's just not used in the Northeast as much.
our pH coming out of the ground is on the low side, at least what I've seen, so that may actually be a
Well,
positive thing. not
But
a
we do
negative.
hit it with caustic. So
Is it?
We do hit it with caustic, so
Right.
we are jumping up to what, like a 7?
7.5.
7.5,
Yeah,
yeah.
but then if you have to account for an increase in pH as it runs through the pipe to possibly, I don't know.
Yeah, we do have to account for that, and whether that be in the summer, you're not worried about it because people are using water fast enough where it can't.
Yeah.
It's
It's
the
not
dead
really
of
sitting
winter,
there,
the dead of winter where you worry about it.
What size pipe are you installing?
12,
Interior?
yes,
Interior
Yep.
diameter.
yep, and it's like,
A lot of water.
it's what we want,
What was the old pipe?
It's a 10-inch right now,
an
10
8-inch
inch,
right now.
then it's
but technically it's,
constricted.
yeah.
Oh, it's an 8-inch right now, but I think it's acting like a 4-inch.
Yeah.
Okay, have they been experiencing low pressure, the houses down there?
Low water volume, that's why it's in the capital improvement plan to do that. That was one of our major
Water
concerns.
volume, and that was one of the big, that was one of the big sources of complaints on dirty water. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Old main.
undetectable iron at the house,
Yeah.
homes.
All right, so keep going with capital, it's one.
SCADA and meters, water meters,
yeah, this year we focused on upgrading our handheld units and our computers to collect the reads, and now we're in the process of transferring from Govern to Univeris. It's a new billing software that we're gonna utilize. Much better customer relations in regards to having a customer portal where they can access their account, they can access their water bill, they can get alerts sent via Univeris, whether the bill is high, they use, if there's any discrepancies in their bills, hopefully setting up auto payment through Univeris. Customer chat, they can go on there and chat with us via the computer instead of picking up the phone and calling us. And it's more geared towards water utility, as Govern was not geared towards a water utility, and there was just modules that had to keep being built and put on the back end, and always problems. I mean, you could talk to Paula from IT and she'll tell you that there's probably not a day that goes by we're not calling them about an issue with Govern. So we're gonna get rid of Govern, hopefully be live by, I think live date is in April of next year, go live with the switch over. So that ate up most of our capital project money with that. So next year, our main goal is gonna be just purchasing water meters and start the replacement process.
Have you identified the type of meter that you're gonna put in?
Yeah, we wanna stick with the Census iPearls. They have a longer shelf life of 20 years. Basically, it's an internal battery that operates the display, and that has a 20-year lifespan, and pretty much any meter out there is gonna have that 20. But the new meters are basically act as an idler. There's no moving parts. It just registers the water moving through it. So there's no moving parts. You actually gain more flow to the resident.
And it's readable from the street?
It's readable from the street. As right now, we're still doing the old school touchpad reads with a handheld, but eventually we're going to move to the radio system. So all these meters are compatible with radios. We just have to get the radios and just pop them into the meters, and then it'll be the full drive-by system, which we want to get
And
to
so the
eventually.
plan is to replace all the meters over like a certain year
Yeah,
period?
like the next 3 years, hopefully all the meters will be changed
And
out.
is that, I don't recall having that budgeted. Is
Yes, it's in the capital
is?
improvement plan. Each year we're doing a little bit. It's not
So,
one big
that-
project.
How much per meter?
It's like $158 that our cost for, that's on average, it's a 1-inch meter, and obviously they go up for the
And you
bigger
guys are
ones.
putting it in, so there's really no installation
Well, right
costs
now,
or-
we're doing some of the larger bulk ones, like the 6 and 8-inch ones that we're doing. We're doing some as they fail now, like the older ones fail, we're replacing. But we wanna move towards where we have a company come in and do a bulk of like 2,000 at once.
Oh.
And, so we're not pulling from our manpower and our operations to do it, but that's included in the improvement plan to eventually have a company come in and just do all.
That's included in the price,
Yeah, the overall end product.
And
installation?
they fit right into the saddle of the current one?
We don't have to really change anything besides just the meter, yeah.
so we did submit for what's called a green grant for water meter replacements. We took a shot. I think could be a long shot, but it doesn't hurt, so hopefully we can get something out of it. I don't remember the value of the green grant, do you? No, I think it was a few $100,000, so we applied for that through the
Yeah.
state.
So the battery, I'm curious, it's not a 20-year life battery that's in there, it's a rechargeable? No, they're saying you're gonna have that for 20 years,
And then if it fails within that period, they warranty it.
so it's not chargeable through water?
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
You know what kind of battery it is?
no.
So
Maybe
you-
I'll tell you.
You're thinking it recharges by the water flow itself? It might. You-
No, it doesn't. We asked that, the census rep to see if it would, but
Because that's a long time for,
that would-
All it is
That would make
displaying
sense,
numbers,
is to use
yeah.
the energy of the
It's-
moving water to
but it's
recharge
such-
the battery.
Right.
such a small draw, like a minute draw.
It's such a
when-
small little draw, all you're
Yeah.
doing is displaying 3 numbers.
yeah, but they're exposed to hot, cold, and all
Mm.
sorts of, batteries, that's interesting.
Yeah, the good thing is that they warranty the meter itself, so if that fails, you send them and they send you a new one, so that's where,
Hmm.
If you have the spec, would you mind sending that to me?
Yeah, the specs on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so, any other capital projects?
Then next year, right?
Next year's capital project includes the carbon, that's not really capital, that's operating.
Well, it's included, they wanted it put into the capital project.
So the carbon change out
The-
at Plant 1.
Yeah, the react or the.
More meters, and then the Plant 3, starting the process of Plant 3 perfluorinated treatment.
Yeah, I keep hoping we don't have to do that. The number on that was astronomical.
It was. We assumed treatment for all 3 wells, so,
Well, we have three wells being treated at field 1, and that was like $1.5 million. This one's $7 million.
the flows at 3 are higher, and we wanna put it in a building, because we don't wanna lose that.
It's
during-
year-round.
Yeah, year-round. And also included in that is a complete electrical upgrade of the site, upgrade of all the chemical systems, and those things were in the master plan. Upgrade the electrical systems, the MCCs, and upgrade the chemical systems.
Now, you think there's grant money out there
Yes,
to do this?
yes.
Because it's, the ratepayers in Hampton Bays have
Yes.
been
Right.
shouldering a lot.
I think part of the reason why it is so high is because we wanted the maximum from the grant. We did apply for a grant, and if we don't get it, we're gonna apply again next year after the board approves an expenditure. And then we'll keep applying until we get it. But the thought was we're gonna do it in phases and see where we go. Well, the first phase, we'll treat 1 or 2 wells. And then we'll see where that goes, and hopefully you never need to treat that 3rd well. But if in the event the regulations come way down, we're gonna have no choice. But
If we establish a new well field, and that well field has no issues, can the current GAC be repurposed for this, for well field 3?
If the
Partially, yeah.
And I
DEC
know
would allow
that's
us to
years
move
down the
it.
road,
If the
but-
DEC would allow us to move it, being that they still probably would have to do something with the current plume that's there.
well, I think
It wouldn't be our responsibility, it'd be the firehouses.
yes.
Of course,
There's that.
yeah,
The-
Plume.
yeah, I know.
The proposed treatment system at 3 includes 4 vessels. So we'd be able to move those 2 vessels over, yes. So we have 1 system at 1, we need 2 systems at 3.
Okay.
Right, and then there's
Ultimately.
also the question of if we did create a new well field that didn't have any PFAS in it, would we still want to build a new field with filtration anyway? Because it just seems like that all fields in the future are gonna have it. So,
Pretty much across the country, you're gonna see vessels sticking out of the ground everywhere.
yeah, it's just, I think, gonna be something that every pump station has a carbon filtration at it. I mean, it seems like we're going that way.
And the only hindsight, the good thing about this is that it actually helps us in the long run for this lawsuit that's gonna come settled. It's kind of a double-edged sword, we don't wanna pollute and put pollutants in the water, but having these detections is actually helping us in the long run to recoup some of this money that we're going to be spending and our future spending to treat PFAS, PFOA, and any other contaminants. Because it actually puts us in a higher scale to have these detections, and then it also pays for our future O&M, not operation and maintenance, but for our future treatment if needed. Which seems like DuPont and 3M is settled already, and the payments should start to go out sometime next year.
Is Suffolk County Water Authority treating a lot of their wells?
Yes. Yep.
Basically, they don't put a well in without having iron or PFAS treatment. And in some cases, 1,4-dioxane.
Dioxane is.
I think they
big
operate
expense
200
right now.
So we only have iron on one
Wow.
field.
Correct.
Yes.
We have a detection at plant 1, but it's very low, and we operate that's well 1-2 that has the iron and manganese in it that we all knew about, and we just blend, and then it comes out basically non-detected.
Is there any cost savings, like on reactivation or something, if we worked with them on that, with their vendor? Or?
I don't think they allow piggyback up there.
No.
They do allow piggybacking, but we found out,
Something,
when we were looking at another project, that they throw a 30%
that was,
kicker on it to
Okay.
cover their costs. So
So it really ends up being no savings to do it that way.
if you throw that 30% kicker on it, yeah. We could look into it though, but,
Yeah.
and see if they would be willing to do it, piggyback on their contract, but, it's also nice to have your own, so you can call at any time.
Mhm.
And, typically the pricing's not gonna,
Yeah, it's pretty uniform across if we're bidding it. It's not, doesn't really change from district to district.
How did they get away with putting a 30% fee on it? I mean, it's governmental. We might be able to get that waived using their contract.
I think cause they don't let you just use their contract, you just say, I need 2 vessels replaced, so they handle all the administration, getting the vessel out there, they
So
pay.
they're doing a lot of the work.
They're doing-
For their 30%.
Yes, they're doing work for the 30%.
Sort of the work that you do, right?
Something like
So
that.
the engineering and,
Yes.
yeah.
So that was kind of my question about the iron, because, when you start to abandon mains over time, and I have no idea what that looks like, over the last 100 years or whatever it might be, those become sources of artificial contamination in wellheads, depending on where they are. Then this isn't the case of that, at least with this replacement, but have you looked at others? It's mostly downstream of any flow, let's say, through the sub-watershed, right? It's not well-directed by its location, where it's decomposing.
No,
talking
and I
about
think,
Rampage, yeah.
I think the corrosion is so slow. I mean, that old main will still be in there for a number of decades.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a source point, and if it's contributory to a higher iron, which seems to be increasing, the numbers seem to be increasing in a lot of areas. I don't know if that's the source of it, but it's just something to think
Yeah,
about.
What's the rocks where the minerals in the
Yeah.
ground where the water's being taken?
Yeah, it depends on the sub-watershed, and we're, because it's starting at a shallow, but it's running through depth, but in some cases, our sub-watershed is, pretty close,
Yeah.
gets close to the surface.
I mean, I know like New York City, when they replace a main, they rip out the old one as they go.
Yeah.
But we're really not in a position to do that, because we have to keep water service to all those homes, so we need the old one in service while we put the new one in, test it, and then swap it over. Other places have, burst the old main. What they do is they drag like a cutting head through it, and it just collapses the main as it goes. But again, it's money, so,
Yeah, I think it's fine to leave it there in that section.
yeah.
Well, it's just something to keep in mind.
New York City's got so much underground infrastructure that
Well, they have-
probably have a law that requires you to not have anything underground that's not in use, that's abandoned. You gotta rip it
Yeah.
out.
It used
Probably
to,
build up over time in New York City.
Yeah,
if
we
you
build
just
up.
left the gas
Well, that's
mains
what
and the
you don't
electric
wanna have
mains
happen
and
here.
water
My
mains
point.
and
Then you don't know what's what. Yeah.
Quite a bit of pipe in the ground.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty on ram pasture. I mean, we have limited drainage. I think the electric and cable are overhead. I think the only thing in the ground is the water.
So you're actually cutting a parallel trench.
Yes. About 3 feet away
You're
from the
not putting it on top or right next to the old one. If
About
you
3
were,
feet
then
away.
you could remove the old one, wouldn't be that big of a deal, because you're already have an open trench.
If we weren't worried, like, we could provide temporary water service to all the residents, and then as we go, we just dig up the old one and put the new one right in its spot. It's just temporary water service is a cost,
Right.
because you have to run water mains on top of the ground, and, you know, you're digging out where the driveways and roads are, and then you're reconnecting all the services temporarily to that main.
All right, let's keep going. Because it seems like there's different ways to handle that issue.
Yeah.
I think we just have to sort of trust you guys on that.
Yep.
Um,
That's it, right?
Test well, we put in for a test well, because we, regardless of what, everything else going on, we still gotta get another well in the ground at some point.
So funding for the test well, but the town board's gonna be involved with the decision as to,
Right.
because it's super expensive to test well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's only gonna get more,
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
it's only gonna get more expensive
So
as
the
time
last
goes
thing we wanna
on.
do is put it in the wrong spot,
Yes.
or put it on a piece of property that we can't acquire, or whatever it is. So I think that's an important decision, that you have a spot that is capable of providing the volume of water that downtown Hampton Bays is gonna need, and not just currently, but in the future.
Yep.
So I know you guys are looking at different spots, right?
Yes, we're actually, and then H2M they're developing a localized groundwater model right now, and the intent of that is to determine how the proposed sewage plant that they had for, how that outflow would affect the wells and other things. But as part of that, we can then model wells to see how that affects the local groundwater draw. Problem is, we don't know where the contaminant list lives today, so like, I could say that if I have a sewer plant here, I know putting a well here is gonna affect it, but, like, I can only look at known things, like the landfill, or the firehouse, or, you know, proposed sewage outfall, something like that. Other than that, you're just kinda,
We had paid, remember the Walter Hang?
Yeah.
We sort of had somebody do a review of all, you know, reportable, toxic events,
Yes.
spills, some very minor, anything that had to be reported to the DEC. And some we had that as like a layer. I don't know if that's a helpful thing.
there's,
Toxic
If-
targeting.
Yes.
And we have,
That's it.
actually, I'm trying to get that data to CPF so that they could be a little bit more progressive in how they look at land and
Yeah.
what's there.
And if
It
you're,
would be useful.
Is it on
to you.
GIS?
no,
It is, it's hard to access.
We
the
can
data.
get it to you.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's fine, yeah, we have a toxic
toxic
targeting
targeting.
report from Plant
Toxic
One,
We
don't
do
we?
have one for Plan 1, yeah.
We had one from when we did the report at Plant One, and it's standard, did we get one on Plant Three?
We might have.
He went a little farther than we
Yeah.
actually asked him, so it's really pretty
Yeah, I mean, it would be
useful.
great, any information's good, especially when we're developing a localized groundwater model that we know that are certain.
Yeah, and you can kind of overlap those with the
Mhm.
I
some
mean, I can
watershed
give you the
stuff.
guy's contact number if that's
That'd
helpful.
be great,
Yeah. No problem. I don't know if that's gonna help identify where a well should go. Um,
And it's, a lot of it is where it should go is based on, you can't get too close to the water. You know, and you can't go too deep. So you're looking at places that are a little bit elevated, such as, right in town as you go out of town, between town and the cemetery.
mhm.
Goes over a hill, there's what's the name of that road? Bitter?
Bittersweet?
Right by, across from Katrinka's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right across from Katrinka's. That would, you know, that's a potential, and then,
The spot I was looking at was, I think on the north side of Sunrise, that's owned by the Cemetery Association, sort of directly across Sunrise from the cemetery. There's a big piece up there,
From which cemetery?
from the cemetery downtown.
Okay. It's on the other side of Sunrise?
It's across 27, yeah.
Okay, so that would work, because the DEC won't let you drill a well within 200 feet of the cemetery. But,
No, but this is up,
Right.
drift.
Okay.
But you're still worried about pulling water back. No, it's way more than 200 feet. It's,
Then, is it
Thousands-
something we can
thousands
look
of
at?
feet.
Is it town-owned?
No, it's for sale, I believe.
Oh, really?
I think the
Well,
cemetery
you
association
can't
will
make
sell
a
it.
choice by looking from the service. But you could talk with Mike Baldwin too in our GIS. He's working with the sub-watershed folks because we're trying to get all that data here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so it's useful instead of kind of asking, having trouble that we have with the DEC trying to get that information. So he may have that. I would reach out to him and then we'll get the toxic targeting data.
Mhm.
And he should also be able to provide that to you as well.
Would it, John, from an engineering standpoint, does the site have to be within a certain distance of the tank at field one? If we're basically moving field one to another site and they were putting in maybe not one well, maybe two wells, you know, that will match and exceed the volume of field one, which has 3 wells, but these would be more powerful wells. In terms of getting the water to the tank, whether there's like a booster pump involved or like how that would work, but is that a consideration in terms of a new well site location?
I mean, ideally, you love wells at your tank sites, but it's not a necessity. If you have proper distribution between the tank and where the wells are.
So how do you get it there? Is it enough pressure coming out from the well?
Yes.
So you don't need a booster pump? It just will send it all the
Only
way?
at the base of the tank.
You have the well pump. There's a pump in the well, so that well pump you designed to pump to the top of the tank. Like I said, the main thing you have to look at is that if I'm putting a well site and I'm connecting to a 6-inch main, it would likely be inadequate to move the volume of water you need. So you would need to upgrade your transmission. So we would look at sites that already have a 12-inch main, you know, adjacent to it or within a stone's throw of it.
A way to get it into the system.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So to get the water up to the top of the tank, you don't need a special pump to do that, or is that
No, the
No?
pumps that we would use to pump the water out of the ground would do that.
enough pressure to lift it?
Yes, sir.
Even if it's a remote tank from the original, from the well fields.
He's saying if we
That's what
didn't
he's
have
asking.
this,
If we keep the
wells,
tank at well field one,
one.
but we put new wells quarter mile or half mile away, do we need a special pump to get the water up to the top of the tank? And I'm thinking no, because it's an expansion tank on the entire system, which is
No,
pressurized.
you don't.
Right.
We would design the wells to pump to the top of the tank, so they're always gonna find their way. And really, the tank is just a demand piece,
Got it.
so.
Right. So there's
But
enough
ideally it's
pressure in the
to find
system to lift the water.
Water.
Yeah.
And you want, it's clear
The
water
hardest
as you
thing
can
is to find
find
water,
in
yes.
a certain place, that's why you gotta do all these test wells.
Mhm.
And it may dictate to you where you have to drill, and it may not be as convenient as this is described. It may be that, you know, you have to deal with a lot of infrastructure in the way to get that back into the system,
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that, whatever, 60 pounds per square inch or whatever, is enough to lift the water off the column?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of back pressure coming down that pipe as it goes up.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a pump in the well. There is a pump that sits in the well column that moves the groundwater to the surface. But that pump in the well column, it's not an artesian well. That pump in the well column is designed to not only bring the groundwater up to the surface, but then to get from the surface to the top of the tank. So yes, there's definitely a well in there, so.
It's designed to move that columm that height to that
Yes.
tank.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so, are there any other issues? So are we still on capital? That's sort of capital, right? The additional
yeah, that was the
well?
conclusion of the capital, yeah. That was our last one on the agenda for next year.
Okay, and then, have we covered all your topics there?
Yeah, we went into the PFAS summary, I guess, in the beginning, so.
Yeah, all right, any additional questions?
We had
Oh,
talked
you-
about over the summer having a public meeting in
Mhm.
Hampton Bays. Are you planning on that?
Yeah, well, we brought up, we tried, but I guess the town annex ran into some issues with staffing and being able to have staffing available to get the place ready. The janitor might have been sick or had a procedure, I forget what the exact, so they were pushing it off to around this time, so I said, you know, no problem, but we're definitely gonna try it next year. Try to get them early, so maybe sometime in May before it gets real busy. and then hopefully they don't run into any issues with their staffing. Should be able to get it.
And a few years back, we had the 10-year plan. Where are we on that?
Well, we discussed
Seems like
it.
we're ahead of schedule a little bit.
Yeah, well, we got bumped back with the Plan 3. Obviously, we brought the presentation in last time, and we had to add Plan 3 to that. But we're on schedule. A lot of the projects are finishing earlier than projected. They're finishing much cheaper than originally projected. So we're moving along with that, and hopefully.
So we originally had planned to paint the tank at Ponquag, I think next year, but we pushed that out a couple of years because we do an annual inspection on it, and the coating on the tank is holding up.
Great.
So till we see that starts to really fail, then, then we'll put that on the list. But now I think we have it for 2026, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys do the reports on the tanks. You do that every year?
Yes. So,
And,
yes,
I don't know if I had the last one.
I can get it to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, I typically see minor things throughout, and I just, like, maybe not so minor, but maybe it's the cable that runs along the ladder that helps.
Yes.
Is a safety cable, sometimes that's fraying, or maybe it's, there's a missing grate on a vent or something like that. Do you guys take that report and have a checklist, punch list, and then knock those things out? Because I had, noticed a lot of them were repeating every single year. Like, okay, they're mentioning these things, but
Yeah.
nobody's fixing them. Is that,
Some of it, like Plant 4, we did that, and then when we rehabbed the tank, we just tackled them all at once, because to hire somebody to go up and, change a vent on the top of the tank, that's a really expensive proposition. But if you just wait and you do it, the vent is working, it's just doesn't meet the current code. So, until they say you have to replace it, we say, we'll just do it when we rehab the tank.
Yeah, within the comments of their inspection, it says this issue will be taken care of when the tank is complete rehab.
Yeah.
But like something like a vent screen or something missing on the ground, we take care of right away.
okay.
But a lot of their comments state, once tank is rehabbed, this issue will be
Yeah, and
resolved.
this is more a comment before you were in charge there.
Yeah, of course.
But there were things that I would notice were repeated year after year after year that were minor, easy fixes. And it's like, I felt like either the reports weren't being read, or, there was more important things to do. I don't know, but as long as there's coordination between the two of you guys,
Yeah.
and that you have a punch list, and some of these things are, easy to take care of, like a ground level vent.
Yeah, those things are taken care of immediately.
So I said, I think, I said Mike Baldwin, Ross Baldwin,
Yes,
just want
Ross,
to
yes.
clarify that. And sorry, Mike, wherever, or Ross, wherever you are.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You do a public portion,
Oh,
Jay,
Yeah, we do have public portion, whether you guys need to be here
in
for
case
that.
anybody has a question?
All right, is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard at the Hampton Bays Water District Commissioners meeting? All right, we're gonna go online and check,
No participants.
no
There you go.
participants, okay, I'll make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Rubio, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay,
Congratulations.
so is there any other business related to the water district? All right, hearing none, make a motion to adjourn
Same second.
the meeting of the Water District Commissioners, seconded by Councilman Rubio, all in favor?
Aye.